Gracious. Got light. This is good. Here we are midway through Lent, right? And on the very doorstep of spring. Say, doorstep. All of a sudden, it seems like it must be Epiphany season. You know, we're getting all these readings about light. We got the snow for Christmas time. It seems like we're a little bit of a throwback. And it made me start to wonder, this Sunday in some traditions, it's called Laetare Sunday, ancient traditions. You know, back when the Mass was in Latin, we all knew it was Laetare Sunday. But in our days, we don't often think about that. Laetare Sunday was called a rose gold Sunday. It was the season where you could lighten up the Lenten disciplines. You could have a celebration. You know, I think it was probably because of St. Patty's Day. You could celebrate a little. But I don't really think that is what they were thinking about. But they recognized that even in the season of darkness, even in the season of winter time, and the season when it seems like nothing is going on, something's happening. Deep down in the Celtic tradition, in the darkness of the soil, new light is coming to be. And so we celebrate in a way on this Sunday the return of the light, kind of like the return of the Jedi. You know, something is about to happen that is good and rich. New light is about to spring forth. And when you're traveling with Jesus and you're trusting in Jesus, that is always the case, even in the deepest darkness. Just like we were talking about in the song, even in the deepest darkness, new light is being prepared. Change is about to happen. There is a change when you travel with Jesus. There's always change. There's a change in our point of view. And I think, well, you and I must have been on a similar wavelength this week, because I've got a lot of P's and alliteration in my thought too. We have a change in our point of view. We have a change in our priorities. We have a change in our purpose in life. Our change in our point of view happens early on. We begin to start seeing that maybe some of the things we were most certain about, some of the ways we looked at life, maybe weren't quite the way God looks at it. You remember the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus, in some Gospels, his inaugural public sermon, and if you were watching The Chosen, you remember the whole lead up was, this is his big moment. He's about to announce what it's all about. And The Chosen kind of says, oh, everybody's in awe of this sermon, and they're all still talking about it, and everybody's so impressed. But in reality, it was probably a lot more like Monty Python's version of it. You know, with people scratching their head and going, blessed are the cheesemakers. You know, remember, this is not a time when there's mics and things. And I don't have mine, so I better keep this here. You know, there's confusion because the blessings he's speaking of don't look like blessings to us. Oh, no. You know, poor in spirit, persecuted, hungry, grieving, mourning, that there's a blessing in that. God doesn't see things the way we see things. Our first reading for this year, this Sunday of this year, is Samuel. And you saw it on our prelude screen. The way God looks at things, the vision of the heart. What's going on in the heart of people? God is always looking deeper and longer and wider and broader than we can even see in our limited human vision. So part of the whole task of discipleship, part of the practices we do in Lent, the prayer and the fasting and searching of the scriptures, all of those practices that we adopt, especially in Lent, are about preparing us to see things the way God sees things. I really struggle with that because I'm always, and Skip gets so frustrated with me, I'm always looking for what could go wrong. I'm always looking at what isn't right. I'm always allowing my eyes to dwell on where things are broken and hurting and what evil, nefarious plans are being set about. I can look always at what bad things are about to happen. But God's point of view, as it said in the reading, stop looking for all that is wrong, for who you can blame, for who's not doing the right thing. Look at what God is doing. That's not how the Pharisees. Here's this amazing, this man who was blind from birth, and if you looked on the prelude, you saw that little boy sitting there blind. And when I first started teaching special ed, that was who I taught, infants, preschoolers who were blind. It was heartbreaking to imagine these little ones, and I still can see little Mikey Burks, this chubby little cute rosy cheeked blonde kid sitting there and being terrified of the world because he could not see. Things were going on around him, and Mikey wouldn't eat. He wouldn't eat food. It had to be force fed because strange feelings in his mouth. He didn't know what was going on, and he would always fight. We had to teach him that food was good and that it could be a good thing in his life that people were giving him. Sometimes God is laboring in the midst of our minds to say, life is good. I'm doing good things. I will bring about good things. Learn to trust me. Even when it seems like nothing good can come. I will bring him forth. As he says, even now, don't you see? I'm taking care of you. Yeah. When we travel with Jesus that way, and we allow him to continue to bring about good in the midst of our trials, we begin to change our priorities. Because when we're afraid all the time, when we're looking for what's wrong all the time, we're about protection. I'm going to take care of myself because everything around me is bad and threatening and dangerous, and I got to take care of myself. I got to look out for myself. There's probably not enough food. There's probably not enough money. There's probably not enough protection. I got to build up my guard. So we keep ourselves hidden from one another, and we set all the obstacles in place, and we begin to hoard. You know, we don't have enough, so we can't give you much. And we begin to see other people as a threat to our security. So we got to throw up walls. We got to make sure nobody can take something that we might need. And our whole way of looking at life becomes about ourselves. But our priorities shift when we begin to see the love and the care and the power and the protection that God provides for us. Then we begin to get a little riskier. We begin to open up a little more. We begin to start saying, you know, maybe I'm not the center. Maybe someone else comes first this time. Maybe someone else should get the care and attention and the protection that I've been given. And we begin to widen our world. We begin to see that people are, that relationships are most important. I think about your marriage. You made your marriage a priority. All through all the trials, all the obstacles, all the burdens that you bore, you made your marriage a priority. And you focused. For you, it was not negotiable. Like for some people, well, am I going to stay in this or not? I don't like how it's going. No, that was not acceptable because you had a priority for one another. But God takes that priority for people and uses it to help us achieve our purpose. I love what he did with the man born blind. He spat on the ground and made mud. And that was sort of the source of the controversy, because they were saying, work. He was working. He made something. He can't be working on the Sabbath. Forget even the healing. That's why they kept saying, how did he do it? How did he do it? They thought they had it because he was working. But there's a really deliberate little prophetic action he was undertaking. You know, the prophets often use symbolic action to convey something important about God. And he said, my Father is always working, therefore I'm always working. I'm recreating. This man's identity was the man born blind, the guy that used to sit and beg. How'd you like that to be your identity for people? Oh, them, they're the needy one. They're the one you always got. They're always asking for something. You know, that was his identity. He was rolling up, and Jesus, just like the first creation story that we hear about God making people out of the mud, Jesus remakes a man out of that mud. He sets him free. And he's able to have a whole new identity. And you see him growing in strength as he goes on. First, he's kind of like, well, no, this is all new to me. I don't know who he was. I don't know where he is. And then suddenly he begins to say he's a prophet. And then he begins to say he's sent from God. And then when Jesus encounters him again, he says, I believe, and he worships him. That word worship, it's to bow down before, like we sang. It's to prostrate yourself in front of a higher power. And that's when the real healing begins to happen. In AA, they talk about coming to believe in a higher power that can restore, that can heal, that can give you a whole new mindset. And in his act of worship, the man who once was blind and now can see acknowledges who Jesus really is.
Yes.
It's a process. It's a journey. And God makes time for us all to take that journey. And he allows us all to be instruments of that process of transformation. Not only in our own lives, but in the lives of others. By shifting our priority to other people, to other relationships, he allows us to grow, to be changed, to become more like Jesus. And that's why on this Sunday, we do talk about the light. And we talk about learning to live as children of the light. And we talk about what that looks like, because now we can see, because we have Jesus to look to. We take a look at how he lived, what his priorities were, and we can just follow right along that path he's clearing for us. When we're confused, when we're uncertain, when it seems kind of cloudy and unclear, when things don't seem to make sense in our lives, we can always look to Jesus and see how he got through. We can see what he chose to do. We can decide, and we can choose to change direction if we need to. We can choose to hold steady and keep going like Les was talking about and bringing about healing. It's wonderful. This is a Sunday. This particular Sunday, Latars, is a Sunday of healing, a Sunday of new birth. This was the Sunday in the ancient tradition that people went to their home churches, and by that they meant the place where they were baptized, where they were given new life, just like the man born. This was the Sunday where they were wearing rose gold, which we don't have anymore, but we do have some stoles back there that are rose gold. Maybe even this one. Yeah. Take a look at that. The rose gold Sunday. I didn't think we had this. Rose gold was a symbol of healing, a symbol of restoration. But I want to push it beyond restoration. Let's do this. Go back in time, traditional version of Be Thou My Vision, traditional color. Amen. For those of you online, I just changed the banner there. It's more than restoring. It's recreating. A Sunday where we all have the opportunity, by traveling steadfastly with Jesus, by looking to Him, not just the author of our salvation, but the perfecter of our salvation, so that we ourselves might be recreated this day. Happy New Birth Sunday, one and all. Amen.
Amen. Very nice. Very nice.
That